clients and existing clients to really try to find out what their needs are with respect to building out a really good front-end solution to interact with their customers. And the one thing I've learned is that their definition of CRM means something different to every organization. Now, we're looking at it in the context of what Microsoft is offering. It's really called customer relationship management, but it's really pushed into 3 different workloads. There's the sales module that allows for Salesforce automation. There's a completely integrated and embedded marketing solution that allows us to track source campaigns all the way through to closed opportunities. And then there's the service entity inside the solution that allows us to track customer support cases, tickets, or instances that we need to go ahead and relate back to our accounts. On top of that, one of the most incredibly strong pieces of the Microsoft offering is its ability to extend the solution. And you might hear from various people, they might say XRM or extended CRM. And what that really means is it allows us to take the basic core solution and allows us to build out other components of the environment that would allow us to extend that offering into other areas. For example, human resource management or maybe membership management. So the tool is very extendable, provided we use the out-of-the-box tool set to allow us to take the native functionality and extend it into areas outside of the traditional sales, marketing, and service. The other powerful piece regarding Microsoft CRM is the fact that you can access it on any device, tablet, or phone, and you can access it either online or in the cloud environment. So users have the ability to really bring their own device into the CRM environment, and it allows them to work on their device as they would normally. Now, when we're talking about the extending CRM, these are just some quick examples of some work that we've done for some of our customers. Patient right management is a perfect example. I mentioned a few moments ago about membership management, human resource management. These are just other areas where we can extend core CRM functionality out to other areas and allow us to track, report, and extend information. So why is this all important? Well, Microsoft is telling us that the age of the customer is changing. In fact, there's 1.7 billion users of social media today, and they're using those networks to go out and interact with friends, family, colleagues, customers to understand really, what's out there from a buying perspective. What items should I be looking at when I'm making my purchases? Interestingly enough, on top of that, 6.8 people or a billion people are on mobile devices, and in fact, many of them have more than one mobile device today. So how do you interact with that? How do you stay ahead of those social users? How do you allow your employees to interact on technology that's familiar to them? And that really comes things into focus, right? Companies that deliver amazing experiences win. And regardless of what your role is within the organization, if you're interacting with customers today, you're part of that customer experience. And customers are looking for consistency in their interactions with their sales teams and consistency when they're interacting with customer support. So those organizations that are leaders in that area are growing much faster than those organizations that are not. The way people have changed, or the buy has changed completely. Social media has just exploded. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+. There's just tons of tools that are out there today that people are reaching out to their organizations and their friends and families and networks to try to find out information about your company before they even pick up the phone to interact with you. And what's interesting enough is that we're finding that 60%, roughly about 60% of the customers are through the buying process before they even get to the point of talking to you. So think about all of that work that you do up front to really get your name out and to make sure that the person is qualified. They're actually doing this all ahead of time through their network and through Twitter and LinkedIn before they even pick up the phone to reach out to you. So as a result, the way you sell absolutely has to change. You have to adapt to these processes. The sales reps that use social media outperform sales reps who don't. So who am I connected to? How do I find out that I'm connected to these individuals? How do I engage them so they become part of the pursuit that I'm working with? The sales reps that use LinkedIn referrals are often more successful in getting those first meetings than those who are just doing regular cold calls. And those are proven statistics that we're seeing today. So what we're really talking about is how do we sell effectively but give modern experiences to our team and to our customer services team. So anytime we can collaborate on an opportunity, we should be doing that. How do we provide additional depth and insights into each pursuit so that way we can get positive outcomes and experiences? So customers and clients are learning that they really need to outperform their competitors. And in order to do so, they have to change the way that they interact with people who are purchasing. So with those changes in social media, employee expectations, the number of users that are on social media, the number of users that are mobile, the amount of tweets that are out there today, how do you keep all of that in context when going out there and managing those sales pursuits? So here's a quick example here, right? You have to stay in pace. There's constantly new social tools that are out there today. How do you take those leads from Facebook and Twitter and put them in part of a nurture campaign? How do you engage with them at the right time, at the right moment, and match them with the right person and the right product in order to win the deal? So those insights are really what's going to help drive those relationships. The interactions that are happening outside in LinkedIn and Twitter and in Facebook are the ones that are going to really help you perform better and outperform the sales competition. And again, if you win faster and quicker with better connections and assembling the right teams to win that pursuit. So this is really where it takes us into Microsoft. And Microsoft has brought all of this thought and context into their total solution. Now what we're looking at is just a couple of quick screens, but you can see quickly that we've got a browser client. That doesn't matter what browser application you're on, you'll have access to the information. Whether you're on a Surface device, an iPad, whether you're on an Android phone, whether you're on an iPhone or a Windows phone, the user experience is going to be the same. And that's going to provide your users with a consistent experience across multiple devices at any time. And that's super important when trying to drive user enablement with respect to deploying a CRM system. So that's just very high level. It's just a quick background on really what CRM is and why it's important. But now let's talk about the context of better together. How do we take CRM and your existing Microsoft ERP investment and make that better? And let's look at it in the context of an actual physical client of ours that's based out in New England. The line of business is that they're in the medical sales, they're a distributor, and they work directly with end users. And can you imagine that they've had 3 different systems to interact with each one of those sales efforts? And their back-end office, as I mentioned, was Dynamics GP. So their challenge was this. They needed to take all the different systems that they have. They needed to bring it into one system. They needed to reduce the amount of disparate reports that they have and data collections. And they needed to get a clear understanding of what that customer is doing. More importantly, as new product lines came about, are they actually going out and doing a good job of cross-selling to the other business lines that are out there? So they define success simply as this, one version of the truth. How do I get that unified 360-degree view of what my customer is doing, regardless of whether they're calling into the sales team, whether we're working with them on their purchases, or whether we're trying to track the different assets they have inside their systems. And as a result, they need to be more productive. My sales team needs to see a system that's going to allow them to continue to work at the way that they're expected to work, but gain better visibility from management. That's really what it came down to. So their critical success factors is they need one system, that one version of the truth. And they need to have security roles so that way they could, if they needed to, segregate their lines of business. Their account managers need to have the ability to quickly interact with the accounting team and place orders fast. And it needed to integrate to their ERP system. On top of that, they also needed to make sure that ERP data not only was able to be passed back and forth, but that serialized information was made its way all the way back to the Dynamics CRM application. So this is probably not unfamiliar to you, right? You've got your employees out in the field that are interacting with Outlook, they're taking meetings, they're doing appointments, they've got some separate databases and Excel spreadsheets all over the place. Maybe those reports are being updated and added into QuickBooks, and at some point some additional Excel spreadsheets are run. This is what we're seeing on a daily basis. This is the current state for a lot of the organizations that we deal with. Now, this client wanted to get that 360-degree view. I've got my e-commerce site feeding my Dynamics CRM application, which is fully integrated to my Dynamics GP or NAV system. So the final design was this. It was that single view of an account. What do they have from a sales order perspective? What assets do we currently have deployed there? Where are we shipping? What invoices are outstanding? What payments are out there? And then couple in the fact that we've also extended all this information inside of CRM, so now that we can look at what current cases do we have open, what sales opportunities are currently pursuing, what's going on with this client from a LinkedIn perspective. And that really became that single version of the truth for our client. And this is where most clients are really trying to get to today. It's that better together philosophy, taking your existing investment in your ERP system and bridging that with a solid CRM system to give you that 360-degree view of what's going on with your customers. So what I thought I would do now is spend some time actually inside the Microsoft CRM application. And one of the first places I'd love to start with is Outlook. If you're like any sales rep that I've engaged with, you're spending probably about 70 to 80% of your time interacting with your team members, with your customers, with prospects inside of Outlook. So why can't I access CRM information inside of a tool that I'm familiar with that would allow me to continue to stay productive as possible? And that's really what Microsoft has done. They've taken the Outlook application and they fully embedded CRM inside of this tool. And I'll walk through some examples of really how that all comes into play. The first area is right here in my inbox. If you look at the amount of emails that I have, I've got some Yammer posts that are going on that I'm tracking. We've got our company hiking trip coming up. That's great. That's not that important, not CRM-related information. But I do have this, final presentation review that I need to deal with, and this customer service improvement. And if you look at those two particular emails, you'll see that there's a link or an icon next to those of a blue individual and a green individual. And that's a visual clue for me as a user to say that this particular email has been elevated and is now part of a CRM activity. So if I click on this Yammer post, you're going to see there's really nothing down here in the email. But if I click on this one from Ian, I'll be able to see that there's this, this CRM tracking token that has been added to this particular email, notifying me that this particular email is now being tracked along this account, which is our Northwind Trader account. And if I click on Northwind Traders, it's actually going to go ahead and launch the screen and open up the CRM record for me to go ahead and view. And what we're looking at is real-life CRM access information inside of Outlook. So this account screen, and we'll dive into the browser version in a few moments, is identical. There's no difference between the experience in Outlook and the experience in the online client from an end-user perspective. So I'm not only just attaching this particular email by right-clicking and set regarding, I also have the ability to drill into it later on to get some additional information if I need to. Now, that holds true also for calendar appointments. If I were to switch over to my calendar and take a look at what's going on today, I've got this proposal presentation. And if I open up the proposal presentation, we can see that this particular appointment is now set regarding this Northwind Traders account. Now, tasks is another great area, and a lot of sales managers and a lot of employees like to use tasks just to drive the things that they need to do on a regular basis. Some of them may be work-related, some of them may not be work-related. So we can actually, denote inside the system the ones that are, CRM-specific by showing the same icon. So we look at the ones up above that are due. Those are just ones that, me as an end user, I've created for myself to make sure that I'm doing those items. But these other ones come from CRM, and they could be driven by workflows. Maybe certain conditions happened inside of that account record, that service record, or that opportunity record that required me to be in part of a deeper task or process that allows me to drill in for some additional details. So, just in a high-level summary, the integration between the Outlook application is pretty extensive with respect to taking activity. The emails, the tasks, the appointments, and promoting them to be part of that CRM record. But if we were to take that a step further, we actually have inside of CRM the ability to inside of Outlook, the ability to completely embed the CRM solution inside of Outlook. So as an end user, I don't have to leave Outlook ever to access CRM information. So if I just quickly in my folder go to the Contourso folder and then click on Dashboards, I'm now going to look at CRM dashboards inside of Outlook without having to leave the Outlook application. So again, those users that feel that they need to live and breathe inside of Outlook in order to be more effective in the way they communicate can continue to do so. We've given them the tools now to elevate emails and tasks and appointments to CRM, and we've also given them the ability to have full CRM functionality inside of Outlook without even having to leave this particular tool. Now, this is extremely important. It's a very powerful offering, and it's something that a lot of our clients look for when they're deploying their CRM system. So I'm going to just switch now and really drive into the browser client. So what we're looking at here is Microsoft CRM. And I'm in the online version right now. And this is the screen that I typically log into. This is my home screen, my dashboard. These are the things that I like to look at on a regular basis as a sales employee. Now these dashboards are fully drillable. So if this particular pipeline report, I want to get some additional levels of information, I can actually open this up to show some additional layers of information. And in here, if I just make this full screen, we can say here's the funnel that we're working on, but I want to really find out what's going on in this proposed phase where we've got roughly about $22,000 of opportunity. So if I were to click on that piece of the actual funnel, if you look over onto the left-hand side, you're going to see that now the view of opportunity is really restricted to the one that I'm looking at. So as a sales manager, this is extremely important. We can build out the system that will allow you to really manage your sales funnel, to understand really where things are within the phases. And then from there, you have the ability to drill into additional layers of detail and to find out what's going on. So as a manager, if I want to find out where we are in this particular phase and where we're at and what's the next steps, I have the ability to drill into that for additional information just by clicking that hyperlink. So I went from a full-on view to a chart that allowed me to drill into information to now being able to drill into the physical opportunity inside of CRM. So I have the ability to really analyze my pipeline, understand what my team is doing. I can take a look at the leaderboard and really find out where these won businesses are coming from. And dashboards aren't just necessarily pie charts and graphs. They can also be lists of information that will allow me to interact with this information. So here's an example of all the leads that are currently out there. And if I wanted to start calling on some of these leads, I could just start simply clicking on the hyperlink and start interacting with those leads right away. I don't have to, open up a lead record or go search for these names. I can present them in a list view on my dashboard and start interacting. Now, dashboards aren't just open specifically for sales. There's also, customer service dashboards that can be created, marketing dashboards that can be created. If we're extending CRM into other areas, we have the ability to do that as well. So I just quickly changed the view and said, all right, I want to look at my customer service dashboard. I want to get an understanding of what active cases are out there by agent. Or more importantly, what's our mix look like? Do we have any critical cases that we're working on today? Where are the high cases? What's our resolution time frame? So these are just simple charts and graphs that we can create inside the system that really allow us to drill into information. It allows us to get at those critical records quickly and interact with our team more effectively. Now, from a navigation perspective, there's really kind of three key areas within CRM. There's the sales module, the service module, and the marketing module. All three modules come with the core standard CRM professional environment. And just by clicking on the menu bar, I have the ability to click on the sales module and then look at all of the things that are available for me to do inside of sales. I can look at my dashboards. I can look at what's new. And what's new actually is a Facebook and Twitter style feed of changes and notes and updates that happen regarding an account, a contact, a case, or an opportunity. So if I'm at the point where I'm starting to wanting to really understand what's going on with an opportunity, I can follow that opportunity like I would on Facebook, and it would show in that Facebook-style feed for me to go ahead and interact with. I can also look at all the accounts that are in the system and the contacts that we're interacting with. I look at the sales leads and try to work those leads from a sales lead to an actual physical opportunity that we're pursuing. We can manage my sales opportunity. We can even manage competitors and attach competitors to each one of the pursuits that we're interacting with. And then obviously there's collateral and some marketing. When I switch over to the service module, you're going to see very similar look and feel, right? I've got the ability to interact with sales dashboards. I can look at my accounts and contacts. I can look at the cases that are there. I can look at the service queues and start pulling cases out of the queue and begin to work them. And then from a marketing perspective, very similar, right? We've got the notion of the account and contacts and dashboards, but now I've got lists and campaigns and quick campaigns. So if I wanted to build out a campaign where I'm interacting with various vendors and we're creating a marketing budget for this campaign, and there are certain tasks that I need to have accomplished before we can roll this out, we can build that inside of CRM. We can link all of the responses from that campaign to the appropriate opportunities, so that way we can do some really high-level, reporting. We can find out, how much the return on investment was, how many opportunities were a result from this particular campaign, how much returned business did we actually physically get from these campaigns. So it's a very powerful tool and allows us to really manage a lot of different things. Above and beyond that, CRM has a notion of this global search tool. And if I just type in NO, look, I'm looking for a particular account called Northwind Traders. And what's going to end up happening is we're going to actually see a quick kind of global search across multiple entities inside the system. We're going to look at the account entity, and we can see where, NO, Northwind, shows up. We can look at contacts where maybe, there's the word Northwind Traders, or maybe a user has the NO in their last name. They're going to show up in the search here. We can look at all the opportunities where NO appears. In this example, it's in Notebook Upgrade. But over here, we can see there's Northwind in the actual name. And then, some various activities that might exist that have it in the title, or cases that might exist where that is showing up. So I have the ability to, use the search feature to get information quick, which is important, right? We don't want users hunting for information or going to a list and then having to filter out that list in order to get to the information you need to get to. That's extremely important. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Northwind Trader account. And you're going to remember this is what it looked like inside of Outlook, right? I'm on a screen now in a browser, so I've got larger real estate to interact with. But it is the same data, the same information that we saw inside of Outlook. Now this is Microsoft's best practice. This is where they have spent all of their effort in designing a screen and designing a layout that allows our clients the ability to get that 360-degree view of information, that one version of the truth. And what I mean by that is that we've got, summary level information here. This is the information that everyone's going to have access to that'll talk about the organization that we're interacting with. Where's their website, their main phone number. This activity feed is going to show us all of the, the activities, the emails that came from CRM that I identified earlier are these two here. If there were phone call activities, they would show up on the list as well. There's some tasks. We've got some appointments. So this is that Facebook type look and feel. It's that, the most recent activity on top to give anyone who's interacting with this account a quick visual indication as to what's going on. So the next thing that's going to happen is that there's this proposal presentation today at 1 by Spencer. That's the next thing that's going on with this particular account. If I wanted to add a phone call activity, I could just do that right here. I can obviously, make the phone call. I can change it if it's not with Alex, if it's with someone else, I can change that. But then I can just, type in whatever I have for notes right here, click on OK, and it's going to go ahead and update the screen with that call record. It's very simple. I have the ability to add, right from here an email or an appointment if I wanted to, or I can do that from Outlook and set regarding like I showed earlier. Over on the right-hand side, we've got the header level, and this is really where a lot of our clients configure this differently. They might add in, some better together information, some information from their ERP system. Maybe it's the bookings year to date, or the total revenue year to date from their ERP system. These areas are all areas within the system that we can configure. Down below, we've got our primary contact information, and then all the contacts that we're interacting with under this particular client. So we can see we have many clients to this one account record. And then if I drill down even further, this is where we get that one version of the truth. I have the ability to see all of the cases that we're interacting with this particular client. So we've got 4 open support cases. I look over on the left-hand side underneath the address information, we're now seeing that I've got, 7 open opportunities that sales is now pursuing. This is extremely important because now we're sharing out on the account screen sales opportunities with the service team and service opportunities with the sales team. So I can interact and see what's going on. So as a salesperson who's about to walk into this proposal meeting, I want to find out if any of these cases are related to anything that I'm potentially talking to them about today. Or are they critical items that I know I'm going to be asked about when I'm walking into that meeting? So this is just giving your team better insights as to really what's going on inside the organization. It's extremely important. Now, one of the other things Microsoft has done with their online offering is if you have 10 users or more, you have the ability to add to your CRM online deployment this social insights tool. And this is the tool that I talked about earlier in the presentation that allows us to get greater visibility into our LinkedIn network in order to, kind of interact with that information. And what happens is that inside of CRM, once the subscription is created, I have the ability to, have it exposed on any of the fields inside of CRM that I want to. In this example, we set it up under the account screen. So it's going to go out, Insights is going to go out, it's going to look for Northwind traders. It's going to show me some news. It's going to show me regular, information about them. If I click on people, here's all the people that are there. I have the ability to kind of follow them if I want to. If I wanted to click on Alex's information, it'll bring up a new screen. And if I was logged in to either Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook, it would show my social connection to Alex. More importantly, up top, it would show me, who else within my CRM environment or my system is connected to Alex. I might not be directly connected, but my supervisor's connected. So I can go ahead and interact with my supervisor and say, hey, can you get me connected with Alex? We're about to talk about this important purchase, and I think he's going to be instrumental in the discussion. So again, we're taking regular standard Microsoft information, we're sharing it inside of a tool, and as a result, we're going to provide additional layers of information for our team to interact with. Now, this tool is great. It's not only part of the CRM environment if you have 10 users or more, but you can also use this to quickly use it to start to build out lists and to add new CRM accounts to the system. So, for example, maybe Cisco is an account that I'm looking to actually set up inside of my CRM environment. So I know I don't have them as an account record today, so I find them inside of the Insights tool. If I click on Export, it's actually going to take all of the information it sees from here, and it's going to start to build out a screen inside of CRM for me. So it allows me to normalize the data to some extent from the tools and services that the Insights has available. Again, I can flip over to the People tab and look at all of the executives that exist here. If I wanted to interact with John Chambers, I could. I could actually click on the export feature, and it would create a contact record for John underneath Cisco. So it allows me to be more productive. If I flip over to the Buzz section, here's where we will start to see some of the RSS feeds or information or anything you've done out on social media. Family Tree shows all of the parent-child relationships that might exist. It allows me to kind of go out there and identify some additional locations within the Cisco family that we can interact with. Similar accounts allows me to take my client data, and once I'm inside my inside view inside of CRM, similar accounts appears. So it allows me to go out and find accounts that are similar. So if I have some success stories where I've done a great job deploying a solution or sold a product, and I found out that there's such a great success there, I can go and try to find some similar accounts to the account that I just closed and try and penetrate the accounts there, because now I have a great solid case study I can interact with. And then there's also the ability to look at some news, job details. There's some high-level financial information. And then there's the industry profile. And I like to show the industry profile because I think it's pretty important. If you have an inside call team that their job is to really take a lot of the leads that exist today and nurture them and get into that particular account, you can use this tool to really kind of help augment that, right? This will give you some quick information, about what are some of the challenges in the current telemarketing space or telecommunications space. Here's a quick call prep. Here's some great questions inside sales could potentially ask them when they're trying to get into that account, right? And this gives you just some general understanding of really, what are some of the things that they interact with when working with their customers. What's the size and structure of this particular type of organization. So again, this tool is extremely powerful because it allows me to extend out CRM information into this social tool that gives me additional layers of insight about the people I'm interacting with. And why that's important, again, because we know that 60% of the individuals that are reaching out to you have already gone through the sales process. Now, the ones that you're hunting for and you're trying to interact with, you need to have that LinkedIn type integration or integration into some level of social media in order to increase that rate of success. You know, the higher of the 70% higher probability rate for closing an opportunity if you're engaged those individuals out in social media. And this is a tool that just makes it easy. It's embedded right inside of the native CRM browser client. So one of the other things I wanted to drill into, which I think is pretty important, is the opportunity section inside of CRM. And this is really where we can see CRM at its best. One of the other items I addressed in the beginning of the PowerPoint presentation is consistency, right? If you're interacting with your customers or prospects, you're part of that experience. And one of the things that we hear all the time from our clients and prospects is that, they're looking for a consistent customer experience, whether I'm dealing with sales rep A or sales rep B, or I'm dealing with customer service rep A or B. I want to make sure that what my customer goes through is the same every time, and that we have a high rate of success as a result. So what Microsoft has done is they've built out inside of the solution the concept of guided processes. Now, this is an opportunity screen that I opened up for Northwind printers for the Northwind Traders account. You're going to see that the look and feel is identical, and that's done on purpose. We want to drive user enablement. We want them to be inside the system and familiar, whether I'm on an account screen, a contact screen, or a case screen. We want to have that, consistent look and feel, right? Summary level information. We've got the ability to, add activities and posts related to this particular pursuit here. I've got my contact information in here. So it's going to be very consistent. But what I have added up above is this guided process. This is that one section I talked about where we want to drive consistency. Now, this happens to be my sales methodology. At the qualify phase, these are the steps and things I have to go through in order to qualify this opportunity. Meaning I've gone through it, it's at 20%, I've identified who my contacts are, maybe the accounts, when they're looking to purchase, what's their budget, how they're going to purchase, and started to capture some of the summary level information. So from an end user perspective, whatever I type in up here is going to update the information down below. So we're asking the sales team or the service team to really stay inside this swim lane, right? Move the opportunity from left to right, from open to close. So as I go through this process, I can, start to really build out, my pursuit and start to build out really what we're trying to achieve. And the flag up above, the process flag, tells me as a manager, this is exactly where we are in this process. So if you remember at the beginning when I drilled into the funnel, when I looked at the sales opportunities and had a real good solid understanding of where things sit, as a manager, I can analyze it from a global perspective. I can look at that sales funnel, and then I can start to drill into the opportunities that I have questions about. And if your team is using this correctly, this process flag will be right where they are, and you'll know exactly what's going on. So as a manager, I don't have to spend all the time doing all of these deal reviews. Explain to me how we went from qualify to develop to propose. I can now spend my time working with the sales reps who might be stuck on a certain area within a certain phase. Maybe under the propose phase, one of the items that we've identified is that I need to make sure that I'm asking for the business as part of that proposal. And I've got this one sales rep who struggles to do that every time. So as a manager, I can laser focus in on that particular step in that particular guided process and coach the team member to do better. I can help them be more successful. So as a manager, I can be more successful. That's extremely important. This guided process is really there to not only kind of help your team members, but as you're onboarding new team members, and you've got team members that maybe come from another area of business or did things differently, they're not only now going to have to learn a new system and a new sales methodology. You can build that all into one. There's no reason why the sales methodology and the guided process can't sit inside the opportunity in pursuit, and that's important. And that's going to help drive user enablement, and it's going to help provide better pipeline and better visibility, which is typically the end results that sales managers look for. Now, the other thing, which I think is pretty pretty great to add to the opportunity is the ability to track competitors. Who am I selling against in this particular engagement? And in this one, it's Carter's Electronics. And if I click on Carter's Electronics, I'm now brought into their screen, and I can get some basic information about Carter, right? I can find out, what's their website. We get some information where we've done some, activities and notes. If I'm tracking strengths and weaknesses, we can track those there. But more importantly, if the rest of my team is using the competitive feature, we can see where else in our pipeline Carter is competing against us. What deals have we won? Why did we win that deal? How many deals are open? What deals have we lost? Now, where this is important is if I've got a pipeline view here of 10 opportunities, and 5 of them we've lost to, and we lost because we were more expensive, and Carter's slashed their prices all the time, and there's 2 pursuits that I'm currently working on, I might not have a really good shot of winning that deal, knowing that they're going to lower their prices, and we don't have that within our ability. So that type of visibility into the pursuit is important. Taking that additional layers of information and making it available for your sales team to be more successful. And then on top of that, if we start to track, sales literature or competitive information about Carter's, or perhaps maybe we're on their email distribution list and they want to send us the latest product catalog, I can attach that in CRM. I can create a playbook and allow the rest of the sales organization access to that information. So CRM can be extremely powerful. It has, we've given the ability for sales reps to really look at information. We've built out dashboards that will allow them to analyze their business. We've given them a guided process in order to, be more successful in their pursuits. We've embedded social insights that allow them to be more successful in the way they sell, and how they get that information. Now, the other piece that's important is, once I've got all this information inside of CRM, how do I use it? How do I get at information? How do I, run views and run reports? Now, the dashboard, we've got some examples of lists that are available, but we also have the ability to, create our own lists that we see fit. And the way we do that is through a tool called the Advanced Find tool. And this is just a very quick, out-of-the-box, ad hoc search tool that allows us to present information back to the end user. And I can create lists and views based off of anything inside the system. Accounts, contacts, opportunities, any of the entities that exist. I have the ability to go ahead and interact with that information. So for this example, I want to go ahead and grab accounts where the state equals California. And I want to be able to just show those on a list versus anything else. Right now I only have 2 on that list, but that's great because my view before might have had several hundred. So this is something that I think might be helpful to me. So if I go back to the Advanced Find, I can save this view out and call this Accounts in California, and give it a description if I want to, and click on Save. And then I can also edit the columns. And by edit the columns, I have the ability to expose additional levels of information outside of just the name and the contact to this particular view. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Columns. And by doing so, I'm presented with a list of all of the columns that exist inside of CRM. And why I like this as an end user is I'm not given just the database field name. I'm also given, what's the display name? Because the display name is what I'm used to as an end user. I don't need to know that, things sit in a certain, table field inside of CRM. I just have to know that if I want to find the state field, I pick on the state field and have it added to a view for me to interact with. So I can just go ahead and start picking information. Maybe I want to get their account rating. Maybe we want to get some information about, let's see here, maybe we want to get their website information down below. Maybe I want to also pull in information about the status. That'll tell me, if they're a good customer or not a good customer. Are there any parent account information? Maybe the number of employees is important for me, the industry that they belong to. Is there a primary email I want to interact with? And, maybe a quick description of the account, and click on OK. And then by doing so, all of those fields are now going to be made available for me to add to my screen. And if I want to take that description field and move it all the way to the end, I can do that. I can also change the properties. Maybe that description field is too small. Maybe I'll make it a little bit larger and click on OK. And now that's a bigger of a screen for me to go ahead and interact with. So I click on OK, click on Save That View, and I click on Results. And now we're going to see the new view with not just the name and primary contact phone number, but all the additional fields that I've added to the screen. So that's great. I've saved that view. How do I ever get at it again? And that's a great question. So if I were to go to just my account screen, this is where I can see the information about this particular account. Oh boy. I apologize. I think my user logged out for a moment. Under the account and contact view, we have these drop-down lists that are available. And as I start to create my own personal views, within a few minutes of that view being created that I just made for all of the accounts that are in California, it would show on my active account list as a personal view down here below for me to interact with. And these views are great because I also have the ability to filter them if I choose to. So if I want to just say, all right, let's just filter these based off of, I only want to look at, I want to filter them, Z to A. Maybe I want to snap in a chart instead. So if I were to move this up here, snap the chart in information over, I can start looking at things by different levels of information. And this requires a little bit of configuration to do. But if I had industry information in here and I wanted to track things by, maybe we have a list of drop-downs inside the environment, I can do that. So for example, this one's saying let's do it by roles. But if I wanted to change that into something different, I could. And it's just a simple matter of adding in those appropriate fields into my search so that way it shows up here and allows me to create those lists. Now once I do that, all that information can be made available for me to go ahead and add into a dashboard. So I can create my own personal dashboards at any time inside the system that I can, create my own personal dashboards just like I did my own personal view. And those would show up in the list of drop-downs that are available for me to select from. So at a very, very high level, I just wanted to reiterate, what we walked through is, CRM, get an understanding of what the Microsoft solution is able to offer, why it's important, why customers are looking to this nowadays, why customers are becoming more and more savvy with respect to the way they, they pursue their sales activities with your organization. We talked about how we can take, the Microsoft ERP investment and bring that into CRM, and that can be integrated throughout the system. We can present ERP information in anywhere within the account record, the contact record. A lot of our clients will have the account screen information be populated by their ERP environment. So once a customer has been identified as a customer and not a prospect, all that information now comes from ERP and is fed to CRM. The entire quote-to-order process can be pushed through CRM all the way to the ERP environment. Again, giving us that 360-degree visibility into what's going on. That single version of the truth, right? And if I look at this image here that our client, shared with us is, I wanted to have on my account screen in CRM information about payments, which came from ERP, sales order information, asset information, shipping information, invoice information, all of that inside the account module inside of CRM. So that way my customer service team and my sales team know what's going on. So they don't have to reach out to the accounting department to find out what's going on with that sales order, what's going on with that shipping status, what assets does that customer currently have today. So that's just an example of extending out the environment. And then we walked through CRM and showed you how the user interface, the best practice, the single version of the truth, that user interface that Microsoft has created is extremely important. And a lot of our clients will stay to that or stay true to that as best as possible, but then add in their own configurations to the environment so that way they're capturing information that's important to them and important to their customer support and care. So with that being said, I just want to thank everyone for their time. Michael, I'll open it up. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to take some of those.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Joel. Appreciate that. Just as a reminder, everyone is muted. So if you do have any questions, open up that question box and get them in before we end the webinar. But we do have a few questions already. So Joel, does the integration between Dynamics ERP and CRM require the use of a third-party service, Scribe in your example slide, or does it support integration out of the box with CRM connectors?
Yeah, that's a great question. Microsoft does offer what they call a connector with their ERP systems. What we've learned though is that connector is typically pretty light with respect to the amount of information that you can share back and forth, and it's not as extendable and configurable as a Scribe tool typically would be. So from our perspective, once we start drilling into the requirements that we have and trying to figure out the areas that we're trying to extend information from one application to another, we often find times that the Scribe tool typically gets it becomes part of the global picture that we need to look at with extending the environment. But if it's just contact information, account information, the quote to order process within the frameworks that the tools offer, then you could, in theory, use the tool and the connectors that Microsoft offers to achieve that. But as soon as we go outside of things like that, then we typically have to involve a third-party tool.
Excellent. Marcia?
Yes, there are a couple of questions that came up from other listeners, from other attendees today. One is, how difficult is it to configure CRM?
That's a great question. And as a non-developer, someone who does not have a degree in anything Microsoft, I can tell you it is extremely easy to use the standard tools to configure the system. So once you've got the entities created and you want to add fields or make them required or change pick list values, you do not require a developer, you do not require a consultant to be involved in that process. We at Sikich will work with your team to make sure they get the proper levels of training. That if they have the appropriate rights, and it's usually a system administrator, we'll show them how to use the standard tools within Microsoft in order to create those configurations. It's extremely easy to do. Within the configuration tools, there's a small screen that opens up that allows you to pull fields off the form that you have, as well as add new fields to the form. So as soon as I add a new field, it adds in the appropriate SQL fields in the database and makes them available for you to go ahead and add to the form right away. And the great thing is, if I add it to the web form, it's going to be made available. I can add it instantly if I wanted to the mobile forms as well. So there's really two kind of forms that we need to manage in the environment: the web version and a mobile version. So I don't have to recreate the wheel every time. If I want to add them to both places, I can do that. And it's just a simple matter is once I have it there and it looks good, I click the publish button and it becomes available for all the users instantly. So I don't have to tell everybody log out at noon, need to get out of the system because I need to make changes. You can do them on the fly, or better yet, in a test environment, validate it, and then move that over to production very easily.
So a typical user, for example, if a user needed to add another account to one of the drop-down fields, for example, on the account screen, they could just go into settings and do that?
To an existing field, yeah, typically it's going to be a system administrator, but yes, they would be able to go to that form, go to that field on the form, and then change the properties and add in another value for that drop-down. Now, it's up to the organization who they give that rights to, but typically it's going to be to someone, either a power user, maybe you've got a team lead for sales and a team lead for service that might have that ability, or the system administrator has those rights. But again, typically to make that type of change, it takes minutes, not hours or days.
Okay, cool. Now, the other question that came up was how Microsoft Dynamics CRM is priced.
Yeah, that's another great question. So for those that are interested, I guess Marcia, we could follow up with the link to the CRM site. Out on the Microsoft Dynamics CRM.com, they actually publish their price list for CRM right there. So for everything that I showed today, I showed the professional user, and that's a typical user that's going to interact with cases, with sales, with pipelines. The Outlook integration. There's also the mobile client, which unfortunately we weren't able to show in a webinar. But that entire experience is all included into one user price, and it's $65 a user a month for that. The other piece that's great is that Microsoft is, if you're an Office 365 user and you have a certain level of Office 365 access, they have a price for CRM that's slightly lower than that. And if you're considering Office 365 and you want to include Dynamics CRM in part of that global offering, then Microsoft has a special pricing that's available for that as well. And that's all on the CRM site.
Great.
Okay, that sounds good. So another question that came up, when you were on the Northwind Traders account screen, could you quickly get back there? The basic account screen.
Yeah, I'm there. Can you see it?
Yeah. So there's a really nice description of the company in there on the left-hand side. Is that auto-populated, Joel?
And actually, in this case, it is. And in a way that I typically do this when I run through a more detailed presentation is I sometimes use this social insights tool. So let me just do a quick example of that. I'm going to open this up because we don't have Cisco in here. So let me just look up Cisco real quick, if I can spell correctly. So here's the Cisco screen, and they've got their description here with some additional layers of information. If I click on this export button, this is what ends up happening, and this is typically what we do when we try to create an account. It says, there's no other matches inside the system, so do we want to go ahead and create a new account record? I click on continue, and it's going to say, here's all of the information that is available. So there's that description that we saw from Northwind Traders. If I go ahead and click on create account, I just use social insights to go ahead and create an account for Cisco systems. So if I were to log out of here and then go back up here into my search tool and go to Cisco, they're now inside CRM. You can see it pulled in their logo. And then there's that really nice description, right? Now I've got social insights turned on. Now I can start picking and choosing the people that I want to start synchronizing. And as soon as I click on sync for John Chambers, he'll start showing up as a contact here. But we can see their address, all kind of critical information got filled out just by identifying that account in social insights and then clicking on that export feature.
Now that looks really helpful. We're running up to the end of the hour, but one quick question. Obviously, you're biased toward Microsoft Dynamics CRM, but you probably use some other CRM systems in your career. How would you compare them in terms of, I guess, how user-friendly they are? I think that's my biggest question.
That's another great question. So yes, I've used a lot of different systems out there in the past. I've been exposed probably to all of them. I think the biggest competitor that we run into is the Salesforce solution. And from a usability perspective, we're starting to see more and more clients, move from Salesforce to CRM. And part of the reason why is its usability. The user interface, the way we interact with information, the guided sales process makes it very, comfortable for users to interact with. Plus, I think with the Outlook integration, the Excel integration, which unfortunately I didn't spend a lot of time on, the ability to export information right out of here into an Excel report or a dynamic worksheet makes it very, very easy. And then, the guided selling and the kind of fresh user interface makes this system a lot easier to work with. So I can find information faster, I can continue to work, whether I'm on a Google device, an Android device, an iPhone device, or a Windows device. It's irrelevant. It's very agnostic. And the best part about it is I don't have to go out and purchase all of these shopping cart applications in order to add new features here. I don't need to go buy a separate marketing module. I need to go buy an Outlook integration module. I don't need to buy a mobile module. Microsoft brings that all into the kind of core CRM solution for their customers. And if they don't have the core solution, they're going to go out and buy it and make it part of the product. We have an upcoming webinar, I think next month, Marcia, that talks about all of the new features that Microsoft has purchased and added into the core offering. So I think that's important, right? So the extendability of it, the price is extremely important, and the usability of this tool over everything else I've seen lends it to be more successful. Users are gravitating towards this. The end users like it because they can continue to be in Outlook, or they can sit in the browser application, or I can access CRM with my thumb on my phone. The experience is going to be identical regardless where they are.
Excellent, thanks. Yes, we do have a webinar coming up in March, and I can include the link to register for that webinar when I follow up with today's attendees, Joel. It's top 6 add-ons for your Microsoft CRM solution. So I will send out the registration link for that, along with your slide deck and along with a link to the recording of today's session.
Great, thank you, Marcia.
Thank you, Joel. Excellent job.
Great. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
All right, we're at the top of the hour. Thank you, everyone, for your participation, and we look forward to answering any additional questions that you might have.